Mayoral candidate Josh Matlow is making an environmental announcement on the Danforth this morning. Let's go there live and listen in to what he has to say.
I'm Josh Matlow, and I'm running for mayor because I want Toronto to be a safe, livable, and affordable city, and I believe that a better Toronto is possible. One of the ways that we are going to make sure that our city is the livable city that we know it can be is ensuring that we do our part to combat the climate crisis. We have an extraordinary plan that is fact-based and ambitious called Transform TO. That's our net zero strategy. But as many promises as we make, we will not be able to fulfill our goals and be a climate leader as a city if we don't have a dedicated funding mechanism to make sure that the promises we make are kept and that we are genuinely net zero by 2040. For years, we've been seeing our climate change. Wildfires are becoming more frequent, and dangerous storms are becoming far more common that are destroying property and destroying lives. And we can't continue to pretend that Toronto is in a bubble. It's on its way, and we need to make sure that we are leading cities around the world as we did many years ago. So, instead of simply just seeing ad hoc funding, a few million here, a few million there, that really isn't achieving our goals because it's going to take billions of dollars to be able to actually implement Transform TO to be a success. I'm announcing today that as mayor, I will be implementing a corporate parking lot levy. Initial staff reports have demonstrated that it can be done, it's allowed under the City of Toronto Act, and that there's an estimate that it could bring in over $500 million a year. I'm taking a conservative estimate, and I'm going to be pledging $200 million to start toward our Transform TO net zero strategy goals. This money will go to everything from ensuring that as we see buildings being built, that they're done in green ways, that they're more efficient, that new buildings along with existing buildings can be retrofitted so that there's less energy leaks and less reliance on natural gas. The way we get around our city needs to continue to not only change but adapt to our new reality. We need more active transportation, less reliance on fossil fuels. I believe that we can meet our goals if we also focus on improving our transit system, provide people real options to not be reliant on cars and move toward mass transit. But we can't do that if we keep cutting transit and raising fares. We want to lower fares. We want transit to be more reliable and take you from where you are to where you need to go. But we can't do that if we don't invest in it. There are so many targets and targets and targets about what we're going to do by certain dates, but if it's not funded, these are simply announcements to tick off a box saying that we're doing something about the climate crisis. The best way to make Toronto the leader I know it can be, to ensure that Toronto is not only doing its part, but taking a leadership role internationally, the way that Mayor David Miller used to do, is start investing in a meaningful, realistic way with $200 million a year towards achieving those goals. Now, what does this corporate parking tax levy entail? To begin with, I want to ensure that you know what it doesn't do. I will be excluding small grocery stores, parking stalls that expectant moms rely on, people with disabilities, and small retail plazas, for example. But for the large corporations that have large malls with oceans of parking, they can afford to do their part to contribute to fighting the climate crisis. In fact, these oceans of parking lots incent people to use their cars to go shopping. We've seen around the world, you don't need a car to go shopping. You just need to go to where you want to get to go shopping, and there are better ways to do it. And we need to provide those options throughout our city. So to close it up today, I just want to make it very clear that I don't believe that any mayoral candidate can earn the trust of Torontonians by simply announcing things. I don't believe that past mayors could too, if you don't demonstrate how you're going to fund it realistically and see it through to fruition. And that's why today I'm not re-announcing Transform TO. I'm saying I think this is an ambitious, evidence-based plan that we need to see realistically through to fruition. But it's only going to be announcement after announcement unless we fund it, and I'm announcing that we have a dedicated funding tool to be able to make sure that it's realized by 2040. Thank you.
Judge, this is at least the second time that you've announced something that involves a new levy of some sort.
Yes.
This is a building fund, I believe, was the first one. This is a commercial parking
Yes.
tax that
Yes.
may inevitably get handed down to drivers. So how do you justify more being handed on to the voters in terms of costs in order to do this?
So, first of all, this is a levy that's going to be put on some of our largest corporations that have a responsibility to contribute to fighting the climate crisis, protecting lives, protecting property, supporting Toronto's goal to be a world leader in ensuring that we aren't the one of the core causes for climate change, greenhouse emissions. And I believe that those large corporations, want to be good corporate citizens and play a role, a leadership role with us. But ultimately, I just don't believe that we can keep pretending that everything's fine. We can't keep pretending that we don't need to pay for what we need to be a successful city, a safe city, an affordable city, a livable city, and a city that takes the climate crisis seriously. I hear from too many people who act like, a bunch of Kryptonians who believe that, nothing's going to happen. I mean, the reality is we're not just facing an inevitable climate crisis, we're experiencing it now. We're seeing storms around the world getting closer and closer to home that are affecting people's property, people's lives. Today's announcement is focused on mitigation. You're going to hear further announcements from me regarding even further ways that we can adapt to the new reality. But I believe Torontonians want us to take action. I'm hearing, especially, by the way, no more, I hear from every Torontonian about this, but our youth are demanding that any mayor who represents them takes fighting the climate crisis seriously, and anyone who just stands up at a podium and tells you that we can fight the climate crisis without putting dollars toward that goal is not taking it seriously and is not being honest. I mean, we're not going to improve transit when there's already a dearth of funds to improve transit if we don't invest in improving transit. We're not going to get serious about retrofitting buildings, both public and private, if we don't invest in ensuring that you don't have energy leaks at all these towers that we have throughout the city and that they're not reliant on natural gas. We're not going to be honest about fulfilling our responsibilities to humanity, to all species, to our planet, if we don't make meaningful investments. So what I hear from most Torontonians who are not climate change deniers is that we want our mayor and our city hall to be a leader in fighting the climate crisis, and that's what I intend to be.
Really quickly as well, part of this platform is expanding the bike lane network, or at least connecting, I believe is the word that we used.
Yeah.
There are a few other candidates that said they definitely don't want to do that bike lanes is not something that they support. There was a poll out yesterday that also supported the idea that bike lanes aren't a priority, so why are they free?
There will be people who will say a lot of things. I've also heard people express the belief that the world is flat, and I disagree with them as well. The reality is we are not just facing an inevitable climate crisis, we are experiencing it today, and one of the core ways that we can combat the climate crisis, if we're going to be upfront and honest with people, is provide realistic ways that people can choose active transportation. And what I hear from Torontonians every day is that they're more likely to choose active transportation if there are realistic and safe ways to do so. So I believe that the city has a responsibility to move forward with ensuring that not only if people choose to bike that there are paths that they can bike, but that they can do it safely. Today's announcement is about protecting our environment, but I must say, I also care about people's safety. And I don't believe that anyone asking for Torontonians' trust to be their mayor can ignore the safety of everyone in our city, including pedestrians and bicyclists.
Just this idea for a parking tax levy, as you well know, has come, I think, at least twice.
Yes.
City staff at times have seemed excited about it and then ultimately said unworkable for a bunch of reasons. So how would you get past that? Is it a
Well, the last briefing that we received from city staff was it was neither enthusiastic or pessimistic. It did confirm that we could implement a corporate parking lot levy. They made it very clear that it can't happen overnight, and I recognize that realistically. It's going to take at least a year, if not a little bit longer. But, given that we have a very limited toolbox under the City of Toronto Act to realistically fund our priorities, we can't ignore this. We have an opportunity to get real and be honest and actually move forward with investing in the very promises we've already made. And staff have said that we can realistically do it. So I'm going to work with our city staff to ensure that it can be implemented realistically, but also equitably. And as I made it very clear before, this levy is not going to be on the small grocery stores. We have a lot of small strip malls and plazas, parking stalls that expectant moms or people with disabilities rely on. It's not, for a lot of people, this will not be experienced or it won't be affecting them. But for these oceans and oceans of impermeable concrete lots that we have around the city with these corporate malls, they make enough money. I saw how much Galen Weston was making before he resigned. They're doing just fine, and they can absorb this. They can do this, and I'm asking them to play their part.
One other question for me is that this is a progressive policy. I think most people would say you have a liberal background, but you are running, I think, as a progressive. Former Councillor Bylab seems to have sewed up a lot of the union endorsements. Does that trouble you? Have you tried to get unions to endorse you? Does that matter to you?
The entire approach of my campaign, and I've been disciplined about this, and I decided this even pre-day one, is rather than focusing on who else is in the race and who's against who. My campaign is about what we are for. I want a safe city. I want an affordable city. I want a livable city. I want to focus on the challenges that I believe have been unmet for many, many years. And, my job over the course of the election is to earn the support and the trust of Torontonians. And that means, reaching out to Torontonians, no matter who they are, no matter where they live in the city, building a coalition of just average Torontonians, people who are organizing in their neighborhoods, in their communities, doing good work. You may have seen, even before I registered to run, there was a coalition of Torontonians who are just, active in their communities, advocates for causes that they care about, whether it be, to support the unhoused or people in the arts and culture community, et cetera, or just people doing good work in their neighborhoods who asked me to run. And that's the coalition that we are building. And I do understand that there's going to be organized groups, whether it be around one candidate because of their background, or I've seen, a very corporate sort of group getting around a couple of other candidates. And I also know that Doug Ford is supporting one or two candidates. My job is to represent Torontonians across the city in every neighborhood, and I'm not running for a party or a group or one organization. Our organization is Toronto, and my job is to be the leader. Thank you very much, everyone.
That's been mayoral candidate Josh Matlow making an environmental announcement on the Danforth this morning, talking about implementing a commercial parking lot levy if elected mayor.